I'm just doing my thing, doing my thing. Oh, you keep hanging. I'm just doing my thing. Oh, you keep hanging.
So I give you solutions, not just here's the problem, but I give you solutions.
I'm just doing my 6 in the morning. Yeah, I'm on my dough.
And that's why I wrote the book. It took me, it's about 37 to 40 years of research.
Now I'm flourishing, life's an excursion. If you get it.
When you isolate a vitamin from its whole food form, it becomes nothing more than an isolated chemical, and your body actually has to work harder to break it down to its molecular structure.
Feeling so good, so good. And I'm feeling so.
Welcome, everyone, to Get Healthy the Wynters Way. I am Sharyn Wynters, and this is going to be an incredible show. I have my good friend, Debra Poneman, on, and you are just going to love her. I'm so excited. But let me tell you a little bit about her. After spending the decade of the 70s teaching meditation to thousands and studying with some of the greatest spiritual masters of the East, often in deep meditation for 10 to 12 hours a day and complete silence for weeks at a time, Debra began studying the knowledge of the great masters of Western metaphysical thought. She founded Yes to Success seminars in 1981, sharing 10 radical ideas like everything is energy and your thoughts create your reality. Within a few short years, Debra's seminars were established in cities across the United States and in 7 countries and 4 continents. In 1982, Debra's Yes to Success infomercial was the first in the history of infomercials to offer a self-improvement product, and she regularly appeared on TV, radio, and in print from coast to coast. In 1988, in the midst of negotiations of her daytime TV talk show and with a contract in hand for a major publishing deal, Debra gave it all up and disappeared from the public eye for over 2 decades when she realized she had a greater passion. 25 years later, now a best-selling author and the co-founder of Your Year of Miracles, a mentoring program with students in 36 countries, Debra is back once again, sharing with the world how true and lasting success is really created, starting with the power of the mind. And I am so glad you're back, Debra. I didn't know you in those 25 years of, what did you do? Did you go off to an island in India someplace on top of a mountain?
You want to know what I did?
I do.
Well, it's actually kind of an amazing part of my story. At the peak of my career, as you said, I was about to have my own daytime TV talk show. I was in negotiations with a major New York publisher, and I had corporate clients, McDonnell Douglas, Xerox. I was teaching them these principles of how your thoughts create your reality.
Right. Absolutely.
And then my baby was born, and I took one look at her, and I thought, you know, I actually was supposed to go to Singapore to do a series of presentations, right. And I didn't want to leave that child to go to the bathroom,
right.
let alone to go to
Singapore. I
understand that. And that was it. 20 years, I became a mom at home. 18 years, 3 years later, my son was born. So over 20 years, I stayed at home.
I understand that. The day I found out I was pregnant, I walked out of my acting class, and that was it. I never, because that became my passion, to have, to raise your children, to have your own,
still
to
my
be
passion.
there for them. Still my passion. 8 to 10 hours of meditating a day. You certainly didn't do that when you had your children.
Actually, I still meditate a long time every day, but the most impressive part was not the 8 to 10 hours of meditation a day, sometimes for 6 months at a time.
How did you do that? Talk to me about that. That is absolutely incredible, because I meditate, and I've been meditating for a long time. But
8 to 10 hours a day. Well,
nowhere near that.
First of all, it was a different time.
I mean, are you flying? I mean, do you have wings to do 8 to 10 hours a day? Are you some monk?
Well, it's a very interesting thing because I couldn't do it now. And I was also in silence, complete silence, sometimes for a month at a time. I can't stay in silence for like a minute at a time, let alone a month at a time. But it was in the 70s, and I really feel that the energy of that time really supported that silence.
Absolutely.
It's a different time now. And my teacher at the time, Maharishi Mahashogi, he said, we had all this spiritual superiority we're so cool, we meditate.
And that's TM, Transcendental
that was
Meditation.
Transcendental
So
Meditation.
that was really the first meditation that came over that we heard about. And isn't that the ones that the Beatles went over to learn about meditation? So that was in the 70s when they started coming back and meditating.
Actually,
that was the Maharishi.
The Beach Boys were on my teacher training. I was actually in a small group with Mike Love and Al Jardine, and they sang me happy birthday on my 20th birthday.
Oh, my God.
In harmony.
In harmony.
But what I was going to say about it is that Maharishi said that when we were all puffed up about how important we were meditating all these hours, and he said that it's because basically we needed to do it for the world, and that there is no reason to meditate that long if you want to have self-realization. After we were doing this months at a time, hours and hours and hours, somebody said, how many years do we have to do this in order to obtain enlightenment? And he said, somebody could become enlightened walking down the streets of New York and inhaling the fumes of a bus.
Right. It's interesting. It brings back, it reminds me of my journey. There was a woman who told me about Dr. William Donald Kelly, who cured me of cancer, when I was 25 years old. And about 13, 14 years later, I was taking her to see one of my teachers, and we were having this discussion about enlightenment, and we were talking about money. And I said, I'm spiritual. I don't want any money, because money would always. It always attracted to me, but I always found a way to get rid of it, because I thought if you were spiritual, that you couldn't have any money. And she looked at me. She goes, "You're really imbalanced, Sharyn." And I went, "What do you mean by that?" And she said, "Sharyn, the journey isn't to go to India to sit on top of a mountain to meditate. The journey is to be able to go downtown LA in the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of all the noise, and be able to do it." So it's not the not having of the money, it's having it. Money's just an energy. It's just a flow, and what you do with it. How many more people can I help? How many more people can I be of service? That's the journey. So I understand that principle quite well.
Yes, and that's why I still believe that everybody should have a profound meditation technique, because when you meditate, at least 20 minutes, take it out in the morning or in the evening or both, what it does is it establishes that silence inside so that you can go into the middle of downtown LA, into the middle of chaos, and you don't lose that inner silence. It's not about going off and living in an ashram the rest of your life, unless that's what you were put on earth to do. Most of us weren't. But what most of us do need, or all of us do need, is silence inside that never goes away.
And also to clear yourself of what's going on. It's like, we get up in the morning, we take a shower, we wash our face, we brush our teeth to get rid of yesterday's stuff. Well, we need to do that with our emotions and our minds. We keep having all this old stuff all the time that carries us into the next day, and we don't need to carry it into the next day. So meditation is profound, and there's many different types. And I've tried many different types of meditation. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there. Where I've resonated to is a observational meditation, just to observe my thoughts and just to try to quiet your mind. And it's interesting to me because you know what people say when I say I meditate. I can't meditate. I go, why can't you meditate? Because I can't sit still. I said, well, but that's the whole thing of meditation. That's why they call it a practice. It's not something that you sit down and be able to do right away, instantly. It's something it's a practice, and the more you practice, the better you become at stilling the mind. It's like, and I'm always mindful of you can only see your reflection in still water. If it's drippy and runny and bubbly, you're never going to see your reflection. And so it's only when you get to see your essence of who you are in stillness.
Yes, and everything, like you say, everything can be a meditation. And I remember, because you are the queen of teaching people how to detox their environment,
right.
And meditation can detox your inner environment. And I remember another thing that Maharishi said was, we were so fanatic, and I still am fanatic about what we eat, but he made a statement. He said, the most important thing, because we were saying, should we eat this? Shouldn't we eat that? And he said, you eat what your mother gives you. And we were like, what? And he said, the most important thing is if it's cooked with love and eaten in harmony.
Right. And that's why it's important to bless your food before you eat it.
Exactly.
And if you are eating meat or animals, it's really important to bless them before you eat it. It really is. I bless, my food every time, before I eat my food.
You could be eating the most pure, organic, non-GMO food, but if you're arguing and there's tension, do you really think it's going to turn into light in your physiology?
That's what I said. It's like I have 20 chapters in my book. What to do about water, what's in your food, EMFs, vaccines. You can be doing everything right, but if you have toxic thoughts and emotions,
Exactly right.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because your thoughts are the most powerful thing that we have. They can move mountains, and have.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I've seen people who learn meditation practices but don't learn the practice of kindness or not speaking harsh and especially not being judgmental and also not speaking harshly to themselves.
Absolutely.
People don't have self-compassion, and that's the thing. The way we treat ourselves, how toxically we treat ourselves, we would never treat people that way.
Right.
The way we speak to ourselves, we would never speak to our friends that way.
Right. Absolutely, and not only that, but judging ourselves. God, it's like the critical eye is on me, and I find though, the more I evolved as a spiritual being, the less judgmental I am of myself, and so less judgmental I am of other people.
Yeah, and
I like living that way.
Growth of consciousness, growth of kindness towards yourself, and they say you can only love others as much as you love yourself. Right. So that's where it's got to start.
So you got into meditation in the 70s, like I got into meditation in the 70s. That was that was the flower children time, wasn't it? I was a flower child.
I always say, people really got a bad deal if they weren't alive in the late 60s and early 70s.
Where were you living? Were you living in Chicago?
Oh, I lived a lot of places. Yeah. I lived in Berkeley. I lived on a macrobiotic farm in southern Illinois. I did. I lived in Chicago for a while. You name it, I probably lived there. I traveled a lot, by thumb in those days.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went.
So you were a hippie.
Yeah, and I went to find Baba Ram Dass in Boston, and I ended up finding Maharishi.
Wow. You mean Ram Dass? Ram Dass?
Yes, I went to find him because I read Be Here Now, and I had this amazing awakening from reading Be Here Now. So I hitchhiked to Boston, and he was on some world tour, but somebody told me that this gentleman named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was going to be in Amherst, Massachusetts.
That's interesting. I had the great experience 2 years ago. I was invited to a private gathering with Ram Dass, 12 people. Just nice. 12 people, and him and Hannah. And I went, and he has such love. He has such love, and he's in a wheelchair and he's stroked, and he calls it I've been stroked. Mm-hmm. And I sat with him a few times, having dinner with him, and he's so lovely. And then I went back about 3 months later. Then he had the huge event in Nepali Coast, which was over 100 and some people, but we had kirtan every night, and with Krishna Das. Can you imagine an hour and a half or 2 hours of kirtan? Yeah. Oh, it was incredible. That was one of my great experiences, being with Ram Dass.
Do you know that there's a gentleman named Phil Goldberg, and he wrote a book about the history of how Eastern thought infiltrated Western thought. And he said that he always asks the audience, what book do you think had more impact than any other on bringing the East to the West? And most people say Be Here Now. It was actually Yogananda's book.
Oh.
And what was it called?
Autobiography
of a Yogi. That was number one. Right. Actually, no, I forgot it, although I was the one who raised my hand and got the answer right. But then he discussed the books that had the greatest impact, and
Be Here Now. Well, his one that I was reading when I was with Ram Dass was Be Love Now. We're going to take a love break, and we'll be right back with Get Healthy the Wynters Way.
She just lifts me up when holding me down, 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 down. Yeah, she's holding me down.
With Get Healthy the Wynters Way, and I am Sharyn Wynters, and this show is based on my book, The Pure Cure, a complete guide to freeing your life of dangerous toxins, 20 different chapters, 20 areas of concern, and you can find all about it on my website, www.wintersway.com, WYNTERSWAY.com, and go to my website. Ask me some questions. I'd love to help you. And my guest today is Debra Poneman, and her website is Say Yes to Success. I love that. That's your company, right? SayYesToSuccess.com.
It's actually, no, we take out the say, it's just yes to success.
Yes to Success.com. You know, I wake up in the morning, I was telling, actually, Michael Beckwith was here a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I have such a routine in the mornings. You know, I get up, 10 things I'm grateful for, who can I be of service to, do my little chanting, my meditation, go into my garden, put my feet in the earth, go on my PMF machine, my I said, but by the time I can get out of the house, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm ready for dinner. You know what I mean? It's like I've got all these different things that I do.
I can relate.
You know?
I can totally relate.
And I just keep putting. So one of the things that I do is, when you told me the name of your company, I started adding that. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, just saying yes, yes, yes. It's such a great word because yes to everything. Yes, I can achieve anything I want because the mind is so powerful.
Well, it's interesting because the name of my new company is actually The New Success. And the reason why I changed the name, although we're in a transition period right now, is because a lot of people, when they see the name Yes to Success, I thought of it in the 80s. It was the early 80s. And it was never a rah-rah company. It was always practical and spiritual information and techniques as to how you could be more successful inside and outside. I mean, after 10 years of teaching meditation and being with these great spiritual masters, I can't just go out and rah-rah-rah. But people thought that it was all about saying yes to success was the houses and the cars and the clothes and the vacations. And that certainly is not what's going to bring anybody fulfillment and happiness. So I changed the name to The New Success because people are realizing that the way they're going to feel successful is by deep connection, is by service, is by being a vehicle for the divine to work through. And even everyday people who we wouldn't think would, think that way. It's very pervasive right now. People have finally got it that the bigger house and the bigger car is going to leave you as empty as you were before you got it.
And you can't take that with you.
Can't take it with you.
the meditation that you teach, is it TM meditation or is it your own thing? Because that wasn't the only teacher that you had.
No, I've had a lot of spiritual teachers. I actually teach right now through the Art of Living Foundation. I teach meditation and
The Art of Living Foundation is
Sri Ravi Shankar.
Sri Ravi Shankar,
And
which you invited me to. That was a phenomenal night.
Wasn't it?
Oh God, that was incredible.
He's so
loving.
so loving, and I've been with him for
He just sat
20
there.
years.
He sat there on that chair and just smiled. And
Never have I ever seen him do anything harsh. It's everything just comes from love. Never have I heard him say anything, speak poorly of anybody, put anybody down. I love the Art of Living Foundation because
it's a beautiful foundation. If you have not been to the Art of Living Foundation, it's amazing. I had never been there before. I was blown away at this Art of Living Foundation. It's in Los Angeles, downtown someplace, right?
yeah,
Do you
Adams and Hoover. I think
Adams and Hoover.
The center.
Just go in there. It's beautiful.
It's the old. I think it was a Christian Science church at one time, but it's there's no judgment. We just open our arms to everybody. You can be rich, poor, gay, straight, old, young. We don't care.
Right.
It's like our arms are open
Right.
to you.
Well, that's how Agape is too. It's a non-denominational spiritual center, which
Yeah.
Agape means, eternal love. Did you ever study Ram Dass's teacher? Which
Wasn't Neem Curly Baba? I can't. Is that
yeah,
who
but
it
it was but I always got Maharishi and Maharaji.
Well, there are a lot of fabulous spiritual teachers, and everybody was born on this planet to find their own teacher.
Right.
And there's not one teacher and there's not one technique
Right.
that's right for everyone.
Right.
So that's what that's what also I love about the Art of Living. We don't say that one technique
Right.
bad and one technique good. It's whatever your heart is drawn
Right.
to, whatever teacher your heart is drawn to, that's your teacher where you found a home.
There's one truth, but there are many paths to that one truth. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you prayed and this person meditated and different techniques and this one chanted and you check their biorhythms, they would all come to the same place, even though they're doing different things, but to get to the same place.
Yes, absolutely. And also, again, bringing it back to your book and what you do, the food that we put in our body, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe in our homes, all of that also brings us to that place. Because you could be meditating also for 10 to 12 hours a day. But if you're putting toxins into your system, and you're eating, GMOs, and you're eating, it really, it helps to do a profound meditation technique because it's also purifying. But what I believe is that at this time, we have a chance to achieve enlightenment. We have a chance to achieve self-realization. There are so many teachers right now that could bring us there, but it's a holistic thing.
Absolutely. I agree. When we talked last week on the phone, you told me that you were sick. I didn't know that, Deborah. You didn't share that with me. You almost died. You were in the hospital.
Yes, it was pretty intense. Do you want to hear the story?
Absolutely. I want to hear the story. Are you kidding?
Well,
so does our audience.
Everybody. I'm a very, very healthy person. I hardly ever get sick. And if I get a flu, I just take my golden seal echinacea, zinc, C, and it never really takes hold of my system. And this time I did the same thing, had a little flu, it did all of those things, and I was surprised that I wasn't better the next day. So I just continued, kept myself hydrated, but I wasn't better the next day either, or the next day. As a matter of fact, I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And by the end of the week, I was sicker than I had ever remembered being in my entire life. And I have had incidents. The last time I came back from India, I ended up in the hospital. I don't know what it was, but this time it was even worse. So I did what any intelligent person would do. I called my favorite healer.
Would any intelligent person who's on this path, you call your favorite healer, of course.
So I called.
That's why we're sisters. That's exactly why we're sisters.
So I called my favorite healer, and my favorite healer said, "I will help you if you do exactly what I tell you to do, because sometimes he'd help me and then I wouldn't do what I told him to do. I said, I'll do anything, because I was afraid. He said, call 911 immediately.
Right.
And
That's called discernment.
Yes.
Really, it's about discernment, knowing when you need to reach out for other means.
Yes, exactly. And so I called 911, and when the paramedics arrived, they asked me what hospital I wanted to go to, and then after I said where I wanted to go, they commiserated a little and said, we don't have time to get you there. It was about 10 minutes away, and they didn't think I'd make it. That's how bad it was. And so we went to a hospital that was kind of around the corner, like 2 or 3 minutes away. It turned out that when they got there, my blood pressure was 67 over 20-something. You don't live when it goes under 70 usually. And it turned out that I had an advanced or an acute sepsis. I had 2 types of bacteria in my blood. I had E. coli and some other kind of deadly bacteria. So it's really a miracle that I lived. But what happened was, and I guess, God didn't want me in his old heaven, but so I got to the emergency room, and I was lying there, and I saw all the people rushing around, and I knew it was pretty serious. And I closed my eyes, and I felt myself, I thought I could be dying, and that didn't scare me. It's just another adventure. But I noticed that when my eyes were closed and when my eyes were open, I could see the room when my eyes were open, and I could see the room when my eyes were closed. But on top of everything that everybody was doing, I saw a light. And I saw that the light was moving everybody. Like everything that was happening was orchestrated by this beautiful light in waves. That was like the waves of light were guiding people's hands and guiding them to look up at the monitor. And it was so beautiful, because what I realized was, number one, there are no mistakes in the universe.
There are no mistakes.
Because if somebody dropped the IV bag, it seemed like a mistake, but they dropped it so that they would bend down so that the other person could see the monitor that they needed to see, that they wouldn't have been able to see. And I saw with my inner eye and my outer eye at the same time the perfection of creation.
Oh, that's heavy.
It was so...
Isn't that beautiful?
It was so beautiful. And then I saw 2 other things. I saw light coming from people's heart chakra, and I could tell who really was sending me love and wanting me to live, and who was like, oh, another day, another person about to die.
Right.
It was just fascinating. And then the most amazing thing happened when a nurse went over to my husband and put her hand on his shoulder and said to him, don't worry, she's going to be fine. Oh. And there was no reason for her to say that at the time. They were really still scrambling to save my life. But what I saw, Sharyn, it was so beautiful. When she said she's going to be fine, I saw this light come out of her mouth. The only way I could describe it, it was like sparkly, like My Little Pony. It was like that rainbow.
Right.
And it was pink. And it came out, when she said she's going to be fine, it came out of her mouth and went onto my physiology. And it strengthened me. Her words strengthened my physiology. And a few minutes later, the doctor came in, took a look at all the monitors, and really was a little bit flipped. And in a very gruff voice said, get that blood pressure up or we are going to lose her. You could feel the intensity of that. And I saw the words come out of his mouth, and it was like this gray kind of muddy color. And it went on to my physiology, and it weakened me. Right. And from day one that I started teaching Yes to Success, I taught the power of our words to create our reality.
Absolutely.
And then I saw it was such a blessing. That experience was such a blessing, although it was probably the most unpleasant experience I had ever had, because it took him a few more days to stabilize me. But I bless it every day, because I saw it's true. It's such a gift. We can create happiness, sadness, wealth, poverty, goodness in our life, or sorrow in our life by our word. I think it was either Catherine Ponder or Florence Shinn who wrote a book, Your Word is Your Wand. It really is. And your thoughts, too.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts are even more powerful.
Absolutely.
Because they're even more concentrated. It's like the atom, and then there's the molecule, or the, what do you call it? Yeah, molecules and atoms and neutrons.
It's all these things.
The tiny one is the most important, the most powerful, like our thoughts.
Right. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
You're right.
So we create our own reality, and the reality now is I have to take a short break, so we'll be right back with Get Healthy the Wynters Way.
It's not what you hope, 'cause I just have to let you go and let you go. Girl, I know it's worth waiting for, but I just have to let you go, let you go. Not saying I don't love you, I do. All of us think, but you're thinking I'm through. But I swear that I'll change, you wouldn't know, 'cause you treat me the same. And I be all over things, but to think that that's me. Life's shifting right by easy. Needed you to know that it's hard to let you go. Said it and I said it before. Needed you to see.
We're back with Get Healthy, the Wynters Way, based on my book, The Pure Cure, Complete Guide to Freeing Your Life of Dangerous Toxins. And the music you were listening to, I have to brag, is my son, Dylan Young, and his website is sonofwaves.com, SONOFWAVES. Every time we play one of his songs, everybody starts dancing in the studio. Isn't that
Totally dancing. That music is so fabulous.
Yeah.
I just have to tell you that my son manages a rapper. We have music all over our family. My husband's brother owns a record label, Sub Pop, and this music is off the charts.
And he writes it all. He sings it. All the lyrics, all the music, all the instruments it's all him. He's like he's been doing that since he's been a little kid. As far as I can remember, he was singing and dancing and acting.
And I wrote Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul and interviewed I interviewed over 50 American Idols.
Chicken Soup for the American Idol Soul? My.
I did, and I interviewed the producers and the directors and the makeup people and the wardrobe people and about 50 American Idols. So I spent a lot of time in the audience and backstage, and I love music. And your son,
he's
rocks.
great. He's great. Tell me about. Because one of my chapters in my book that I had Michael Beckwith on and Marianne Williamson on, and by the way, she's running for Congress. Did you know that? 33rd District for a new conversation in Washington. I'm so excited about that.
And that woman is so brilliant.
She's absolutely brilliant.
She's the real deal. She is so spiritual, and she is the most profound proponent of the Course in Miracles. But her knowledge of politics and what could really make this country the great country that it's supposed to be.
Absolutely.
Marianne could do it.
Absolutely.
She could so do it.
And there's fundraisers all over the place. If anybody wants to go to marianneforcongress.com and help her just, we need to get her elected in Congress to see a different form of government, of what's going on.
Yeah, and Henry Waxman is retiring.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Talk about A Course in Miracles.
Uh-huh.
Oh, my God, A Course in Miracles. Waxman is retiring.
Yeah.
Isn't that an interesting phenomenon?
And Marianne she's so... again, people look at her as a spiritual leader, but her knowledge of politics is so profound.
She's brilliant.
She's brilliant.
She was on 2 weeks ago, and we talked about toxic thoughts and emotions, and then how that gets into our government. So that's one of my chapters: is toxic thoughts and emotions. How does that affect us?
Toxic thoughts and emotions? Where do I start? Where do I even start? And again, that's what I taught. I started teaching that in the early 80s, toxic thoughts and emotions, and basically how to turn it around. And I was just giving a talk the other night about, and we mentioned this at the beginning, about our self-talk, how we can actually pollute ourselves. And
Absolutely.
I was sharing this incident that happened to me, that I was giving a talk, and I sat down. They always say there's 3 talks whenever you give one. It's the talk you write, the talk you give, and the talk you give in your head on the way home in the car.
Right. Right,
The
right.
one you should give it.
Right. Oh, if I only said that, or oh, if I only did it that
While
way.
you're beating yourself up that you didn't do
absolutely.
do it.
The judgment comes.
The judgment. So I had done this talk, and I sat down, and I was in the beat myself up stage.
Right.
And I remembered something that my friend Robert Holden, who wrote Shift Happens and Lovability, he told me that what I should do is I should talk to myself with the kind of love that I talk to my children.
Right.
And if my child sat down after a talk and said, I can't believe I said that, that was so stupid, and I was so coming from the ego, I wouldn't say to my child, you are right, that was really stupid and really coming from the ego. I would look for everything good about what they'd done.
It's about being kind to us. We're
Compassionate.
We are so not kind.
And that was it. I just sat down and I was thinking of everything I did wrong and beating myself up. And then I remembered that Robert told me to talk to myself like I talk to my children, and I did. I started saying, Deb, it actually was okay. It was actually, this is good about it and that was good about it. And even the part that was coming from the ego, it was necessary to show the contrast of what's great in your life and what's not so great in your life. And so positive self-talk can really lift some of that, some of those toxins that we pour on ourselves.
Right. Absolutely. If we only understood the power that we have. I mean, just like I can have two clients and they both have the same dis-ease, and one gets better and one doesn't. What's the discerning factor? And so much of it is how they think about it. Oh, do I have to do that, or do I have to do? Oh, yeah, I can do. It's so different because how you think so affects your physiology of what is going on internally in your body. It's like your attitude promotes your altitude. How high do you want to go?
That's right. And for those of you who are going to hear this, negative thinking actually ages you as well.
Yeah. I got that.
Not only the toxic water and the toxic cosmetics and the toxic food age you, but the toxic thoughts produce a chemical that ages you. And positive, uplifting, happy thoughts actually reverse the aging process. So if you don't do it for anything else, do it for that.
Right. What was that? Happy talk, keep talking, happy talk.
Oh, yeah,
Talk
South
about
Pacific.
things you like to do. Yeah, really.
Love musicals.
Oh, really? Isn't that great?
Another great technique that people use a lot these days is Ho-oponopono.
Oh, I have that in my book.
I love
that.
you.
Thank you. And please forgive me.
Yes,
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And that was Joe Vitale. Dr. Joe Vitale has made that popular in the West.
And I talk about that in my book.
And do you know it's
Ho-oponopono.
It's a great way to.
Do you know the
rid
story
your
about
system.
the jailer? Tell it.
Well, Dr. Len Hune, I believe was his name. What he did is he worked in a high security facility for the criminal mentally insane.
Right.
And what he did was that there was nobody that could help them. They would just get worse and worse and worse. And this Ho-oponopono is an ancient kahuna prayer.
Right.
And what he did was, instead of trying to work with them individually, he took out their files and he said the Ho-oponopono to each of them, to each of those files. And while he was saying them to the files, he held in his heart each of those people. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you might say, well, why would he be saying, please forgive me to those people? And what he believed is that all of us are connected. And the fact that these people were in this institution, we all have to take responsibility for it. And the miraculous thing was that as he started doing that, they got better. Right. And more people were able to be released. And within a few years, they actually shut down that facility. And the only thing they did different was Dr. Hune did the Ho-oponopono for several hours in his office each day over each of those files.
And that's it's an incredible story, isn't it? And you really get to understand. Well, they've done so many studies like that with water. You have love. Like on my water, I use like a structured water. So as it's getting structured, I have words on it. I have love, gratitude, forgiveness, kindness, peace, joy. And so that water is being infused with all that. But they did a study with taking water and putting hate, anger, greed, and they could see the change in the crystalline form of the structure of the water.
Yes, that was Dr. Masaru Emoto's
work.
It really was fascinating because when he had these Japanese school children speak to the water.
Right.
Well, first he took polluted water and unpolluted water, and,
Right.
and he showed the difference in the crystalline structure.
Right.
And then he played music to the water. He would play like heavy metal, and then he would play like something from Mozart.
Well, it's the same thing with plants. The same thing with plants.
Right, exactly.
Will thrive with classical music. That's why
Beautiful
my
music.
plants do so well.
Right. Me too. I actually play chant. I play
Me too.
like Saraswati and,
Saraswati.
and
Kirtan.
Lakshmi and,
Right,
and
that's it.
some. But anyway, but Dr. Emoto, after he played the two types of music, then he thought, what about words? And that's when he discovered that you could say to water, I hate you, and the crystalline structure gets all deformed, and you could say, I love you, and it turns
Well,
into this beautiful symmetry.
Well, just saying that, you can feel yourself going, "Ugh," and saying the other is beautiful.
Well, that's because our bodies are 70% water.
That's right.
So when we speak harshly, what we're doing is we're creating. That's why he said that there's a difference when you're working together and you say to somebody, do this for me, get me that scissors. It creates that in their physiology and yours. But if you say, do you mind doing this for me? I would love it if you could get me that scissors. So there's so much that we could do
How
to
we talk.
contribute to the world.
And I wanted to say, when you were back in the hospital, one of the things I tell my clients and my friends, if you ever get any kind of surgery, you make sure you talk to that doctor, and you make sure that you tell them that when I am out, that you only want positive and loving conversations in that operating room, because that anything they say is going into your subconscious, and it's a great time for the doctors to say healing things to recuperate faster. That would work, and that's being done, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, there's this amazing woman named Lynn McTaggart, and she's from England, and she's the founder of the Intention Experiment. And what she did is she has done a lot of different experiments. Over 30,000 people from I don't know how many countries around the world have participated. But what she's done is she's gathered groups of people together, and they've put their attention, for example, on Afghanistan. And while they were putting their attention with love on Afghanistan, the war statistics, how many fatalities there were, went way down, in some cases over 700%. And then she also had people in England putting their attention on plants and humans and even algae in a laboratory in Germany, and their thoughts changed biological structures in those people in the laboratory in Germany. And now she does it with people. She calls it the groups of 8, where they put their attention on other people's happiness and success.
It's also prayer.
It's prayer. It's a form of prayer.
It's a form of prayer. And prayer is powerful.
Yes.
I pray every day. And talk to me the difference between prayer and meditation.
Well, the type of meditation that I do mantra meditation. So, and mantras are sounds that have a specific effect on the nervous system.
Right.
So what I teach through the Art of Living Foundation is we give each person a mantra that's specifically chosen for them, and using the mantra in the proper way that we teach them allows the mind to spontaneously settle down. Even if you have a totally monkey mind, it allows, the mantra itself has a soothing effect. It allows the mind to settle down, allows the physiology to settle down. You gain that state of deep, profound rest, and at the same time, because the rest is so profound, stress is released from your physiology. You feel more centered. And then it's like when you pray after your meditation, it's like dropping a seed into fertile soil.
Oh.
So
Fabulous.
That's what I do. I do my visualizations and my prayers after my meditation, and I feel that that's the most powerful time.
Absolutely. So your yes to success, which is now the new success. Do you teach the meditation in the new success?
I don't teach the meditation, but I strongly recommend that people learn a meditation technique. And there are a lot of things that I teach people that they could do to have a less toxic life, and meditation is certainly one of them. And sometimes I'll have a course afterwards, but it's separate.
Right. I mean, it would be great if we taught meditation in schools. Can you imagine that?
They do. The Art of Living goes into schools. The Transcendental Meditation program is taught in schools all over the
Well,
world.
it needs to become more. It needs to become
We
more.
have something called, youth empowerment seminars that we teach through the Art of Living Foundation, and then we have YES for schools. Yes for schools, youth empowerment seminars for schools. We
Awesome.
go into prisons. We have the Prison Smart program. So Art of Living is really going into all sectors of society. We have a program for soldiers who come home with post-traumatic stress disorder in the Art of Living. So
And if anybody's interested, just Google Art of Living.
artofliving.org.
artofliving.org. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to be right back.
As we're lifted up into the spiritual domain, we begin to see a little bit differently. There's a broadcast going on. This broadcast comes from within you. There's a song singing in you. There is something within you that wants to express. There is something within you that wants to come forward. You are anointed and appointed by the Spirit as the image and likeness of divine and ultimate reality. As we bang in that domain, we bring heaven to earth as a spiritual practice. Wake up and say to yourself, I'm taking an adventure in paradise. And guess what? I'm taking you with me. I'm activating my spiritual stimulus package. I'm taking an adventure in paradise.
We're back with Get Healthy, the Winters Way. I am Sharyn Wynters, and you were listening to Michael Beckwith, the Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith, has a great video called I'm Taking You to Paradise. I go to Agape, Wednesday nights, Sundays. I love going there. It's where I told Michael, I said, this is where I get my soul food. And he laughed, because he fills my soul. I just love what he has to say. He is so connected to spirit, and all that just comes through him.
Yeah, and
It's
Ricky
great.
too. The whole scene
Oh,
there.
yeah.
And I watched your show with him, and he and you told the story about how people kept wanting to bring you to Agape, and you resisted, and finally you went, and
Well,
that was it.
it was just, and because of him, this is all happening. So let me ask you a question. What is the key to living the new success?
The new success.
The new success, as opposed to
the old success. Well, actually, the old success, again, is this false belief that accumulation or even acknowledgement or even getting the degree or getting the corner office or those things are not going to bring you fulfillment. They're not going to bring you happiness. And what I decided to do a couple years ago is I decided that I was going to do some interviewing and find out what does bring people happiness. And what I found is that nobody says houses and cars and corner offices anymore. You know what they say? Service. But they also say what they want is freedom and connection. And they not only want the freedom to do what they want to do, follow their passion, live their life, live their religious beliefs, live their spiritual beliefs without somebody suppressing them or telling them that it's wrong.
Right.
But the connection, they want connection to a higher power. They want a connection to each other, deep human connection. It's very interesting when you interview people now what they want. And it's not the old success. It's something very different.
Last year, when the world was supposed to come to an end, December 21, 2012, it did come to an end. And what came to an end was we've been in this head consciousness for all these years, for thousands of years. And now we've shifted into heart consciousness. And so those things that are in the head have got to die.
Yes.
Because that's where all the greed and the anger and the resentment and the judgments, that's all in your head. And heart consciousness is a totally different thing, and that's what we're experiencing. That's why people are leaving this planet really quickly. You notice everything is speeding up much more rapidly than ever before.
That's right. That's right. And, one of the things that I've always taught in Yes to Success, which is interesting because I started it, 34 years ago, is that when I left this huge career to be a mom at home, people said, have you gone out of your mind? And I said,
yes.
Yes.
I have gone out of my
Totally.
mind. Isn't that great? I've gone out of my mind into my heart.
Right into my heart.
I got that. I got that.
Because that's the thing. Because the mind analyzes, the mind separates, the mind figures out how I could be better than you and how I'm different from you. But the heart just knows how to love, and the heart just knows how to connect, and the heart just knows what's the same about you and me. And that's the new success. It's all about heart connection. I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Brene Brown.
Yes, I am.
She's fantastic. I can't remember the something about. I can't remember the name of her book. But basically, what she did was she also studied what would make people happy. And what she found, first she studied what people were afraid of. Same thing. It's not snakes. It's not death. It's not public speaking. They're afraid of living their life without having love, without having deep, profound human connection. But the other thing that they're afraid of is showing themselves, of being vulnerable. And what's interesting is that the path to love is being imperfect. That's what her book is, Gift of Imperfection. Okay. If you can allow yourself to say, I screwed up, I'm really sorry. If you could allow yourself to say, I need help. If you could allow yourself to say, I'm sad, I'm scared. If you could ask your partner to hold you, if you could ask your partner for sex, if you could say to somebody, I love you, with no guarantee that they're going to say, I love you back, that vulnerability, that's what is the portal to everything that you want. Okay. That is a portal. But instead, we numb ourselves with drugs, with food, with alcohol, with needing to be right, with needing to be perfect. And that's what's keeping us away from deep human connection. Right. And if we could we're so
afraid of admitting to mistakes. And look at our court system. Everybody's, it's okay to not be right. Do you want to be right? Or do you want to be happy?
Or do you want to be happy? And this is the ultimate being right or being happy, because Brene Brown talks about the gift of imperfection. Allow yourself to be imperfect.
Well, what was that? Deborah Ford's Dark Side of the Light Chasers. I loved that book.
Absolutely.
Okay, so love your dark side. We all have a dark side, and how that can work for you.
Right. And nobody's perfect. I mean, newsflash, we're human. And humans make mistakes, and humans screw up. And embrace it. Yeah. Let yourself exhale.
But we all walk around, for the most part, in this mask of who we want people to think we are, and then we feel guilty because we're showing something that's not really us.
And that's it.
And it's coming to terms with who we are and being able to be vulnerable. It's a really hard thing to really be vulnerable, and so especially for women now, because we've had to have a role of being this businesswoman, and so we've had to put our vulnerability away. But it's time to bring it out. Okay, it's been away too long. We need to become vulnerable.
Yes. And you could take baby steps. If it seems scary, just when you make a mistake, say, that was me. Don't blame it on somebody else. Or if somebody else has an idea, instead of pretending it was your idea, give that person credit for the idea. There's little things that you can do which allow you to be imperfect, allow you to be vulnerable. Just start with those little things, and then the path will be paved for that real, true success.
And that's one of the things I do in the morning. It says, who can I be of service to? Because when you say, who can I be of service to, the attention goes on the other person, not on me.
Yes.
So if I stand in that light of who can I be of service to?
That's so beautiful. I'm going to start doing that, because what I always do in the morning.
Where can I go? What can I do? And who can I help to whom?
Because I always say, let me be a vehicle for your will on earth.
Absolutely.
But I love that, and I'm going to add, and who can I be of service to?
Who can I be of service to? Please, God, bring people into my life that I can be of service to.
Yeah.
And then it just changes the dynamic because it's not about me then, it's about them. So I, kind of live my life listening to people's needs, wants, dreams, and desires, and see if I can help them.
Yes.
And ask.
Yes.
Not ask. You have a course called The Year of Miracles?
Your Year of Miracles.
Tell me about that. I want to know about that.
Well, Your Year of Miracles actually starts at the beginning of the year. So now we're putting a list together for 2015. We have 1,800 people.
Oh, my
from
God.
all over the world, 38 countries. I teach it with Marcy Shimoff, who is the author of Happy for No Reason, Love for No Reason. She was a featured teacher in The Secret. And basically what we do is every month is dedicated to bringing miracles into our lives in a different area. Like this month, February is actually on self-love, and there's a month on wealth, and there's a month on physical, how we can create miracles with our health.
That sounds wonderful.
Yes, and
So what do people do? They call,
we have 3 calls. With the first Wednesday of the month, we have a call where Marcy and I lay the foundation for the topic, and we give techniques that you can begin, like this month, you could begin living self-love.
Right.
And we give very, very powerful knowledge and very powerful techniques, and have Q&A and laser coaching, which is interesting with 1,800 people. And then the second week, we have guest experts. Like we have this month, it's going to be Catherine Woodward Thomas, who wrote Calling in the One and is a co-founder of Feminine Power. Last month, it was Marsha Weeder, who is the founder of Dream University, because it was on Creating Your Vision, was January. But we're going to have Dr. Joe Vitale, Ho-oponopono. We have Dr. John Gray. We have
great.
Janet Atwood of the Passion Test. We have
So
Muriel Hemingway. We have all these
so
different
can
experts.
somebody, if they didn't start in January, come into it?
Well, we are, in fact, closing registration. Actually, we closed registration at the end of the first week in February.
Really?
So there has to be a waiting list now for 2015. Nuts!
But can somebody go is there a website?
Yes, youryearofmiracles.com.
youryearofmiracles.com and see what you're missing and what you can sign up for the future.
Who knows? We might come up
love
with something that we can do mid-year. We're always thinking of ways that we can support people.
So I have a question for you. So if there's one thing that you could do differently that would affect positive, supportive energy in our lives, what would that be? And that's our last question. So let's leave them with, what was that one thing that people can do?
One thing is everything. Because we feel so helpless. We think we can affect our life, but we can't affect the people who are suffering in Darfur, or the girls in Africa who are experiencing like genital mutilation. We think, oh God, that's so horrible. What can I do? You can do something, because every single act that you do either brings more light onto the planet or more darkness onto the planet. And the more we know that, when we're selfish, when we're angry, when we lie, when we act out of integrity, when we don't keep our word, when we don't let somebody in traffic, when we don't hold the door for somebody who's coming up with a baby carriage, that's when we're cutting off the light into the world. But when we open the door and hold it, even though the person's down the block and we're in a hurry, we open the door and we let the person in and we let the light in. And the more people we do that for, the more light will be on the planet, and we'll have a true age of enlightenment.
Well, my life is lighter having you in my life. I can tell you that,
Thank
Deborah.
you.
I'm so
Same.
grateful to know you. And when we first met, it was just a great connection. Wasn't it?
Instant.
It was instant. It was like we've known each other many lives.
Yes, and thank you for everything you do for the planet. It's a lot.
Thank you for acknowledging it. This hour just flew by. Next time you're in town, come back again. I really want to talk more. I just love hanging with. Well, we're going to hang later anyway. So this is Sharyn Wynters from Get Healthy the Wynters Way. Please visit my website, www.wintersway.com, WYNTERS.com. Check out my book. It will really make a difference in your life. So, to your health, namaste.
I'm just doing my thing, doing my thing. Oh, you keep hanging. I'm just doing my thing. Oh, you keep hanging.
So I give you solutions, not just here's the problem, but I give you solutions.
I'm just doing my 6 in the morning, yeah, I'm on my dough.
And that's why I wrote the book. It took me, it's about 37 to 40 years of research.
Now I'm fresh in life's an excursion. If you get it.
When you isolate a vitamin from its whole food form, it becomes nothing more than an isolated chemical, and your body actually has to work harder to break it down to its molecular structure.
Feeling so good, so good. And I'm feeling so good.